Sudan, a vast nation in the heart of Africa once celebrated for its ancient civilizations, diverse peoples, and cultural richness, today stands as a symbol of human endurance amid unimaginable suffering, a land where hope and hardship coexist, where the echoes of history are interwoven with the cries of a nation struggling for peace, stability, and dignity. From the banks of the Nile to the arid expanses of Darfur and Kordofan, from the bustling streets of Khartoum to the silent refugee camps scattered across neighboring countries, Sudan's story is one of resilience tested by decades of political turmoil, civil conflict, and humanitarian catastrophe that has left generations caught in a relentless cycle of displacement, hunger, and violence. Since its independence from British-Egyptian rule in 1956, Sudan has faced a succession of challenges that have shaped its destiny, a complex interplay of ethnic, religious, and regional divisions has often been exploited by political elites, fueling wars and preventing sustainable nation-building. The First Sudanese Civil War, which lasted from 1955 to 1972, erupted even before independence and reflected deep-rooted tensions between the northern, predominantly Arab and Muslim regions and the southern areas, home to diverse ethnic and Christian communities. Though the Addis Ababa Agreement brought a temporary peace, the structural issues of inequality, marginalization, and lack of fair representation remained unresolved. In 1983, the Second Civil War reignited, led by the Sudan People's Liberation Army, SPLA, against the government in Khartoum, resulting in one of Africa's longest and deadliest conflicts. Over 2 million lives were lost, and millions more were displaced, enduring famine and devastation that scarred entire communities. In 2005, the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, CPA, brought hope, paving the way for the independence of South Sudan in 2011, a moment of celebration overshadowed by the heavy toll of decades of warfare. Yet even as one chapter closed, another tragedy unfolded. The western region of Darfur became synonymous with mass atrocities beginning in 2003, when fighting erupted between rebel groups seeking equality and government-backed militias known as the Janjaweed. The violence resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths and forced millions into displacement camps, villages were burned, women were assaulted, and entire communities were erased. International outrage followed, and the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Sudan's then-President Omar al-Bashir on charges of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, marking the first time a sitting head of state faced such charges. For years, Sudan's people endured under authoritarian rule, economic mismanagement, and repression, yet their spirit of resistance persisted. In December 2018, widespread protests erupted across Sudan against rising food prices, inflation, and corruption, quickly transforming into a mass movement demanding an end to al-Bashir's 30-year regime. In April 2019, after months of demonstrations and civilian casualties, the military ousted al-Bashir, igniting a fragile hope for democracy. A transitional government was formed, combining civilian and military leaders, tasked with steering the nation toward elections and peace. However, deep mistrust between factions, economic collapse, and external pressures created instability. In October 2021, a military coup led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan disrupted the transition, dissolving the government and plunging the country back into uncertainty. 18 months later, in April 2023, tensions between the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, loyal to al-Burhan, and the powerful paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, led by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemedti, exploded into open warfare. What began as a struggle for power in Khartoum soon engulfed the entire nation. Residential neighborhoods became battlefields, hospitals were bombed, markets looted, and civilians trapped without food or medical care. In the western regions, particularly Darfur, reports emerged of renewed ethnic massacres, targeted killings, and widespread sexual violence reminiscent of the early 2000s atrocities. The United Nations, World Food Programme, and humanitarian agencies describe the crisis as the largest displacement in the world today, with over 10 million people forced to flee their homes and millions facing famine conditions. Humanitarian access remains severely restricted. Aid convoys are often attacked, warehouses looted, and international staff endangered, leaving local communities to survive on dwindling resources. Infrastructure across the country has collapsed, electricity grids are down, communication networks have failed, and water systems are damaged, exposing millions to disease outbreaks such as cholera and malaria. Schools and universities have shut down, leaving an entire generation without education. Hospitals, overwhelmed and undersupplied, struggle to treat the wounded as doctors and nurses work without pay, power, or basic supplies. The capital city, Khartoum, once vibrant with culture and commerce, now lies in ruins, its streets scarred by shelling, its bridges cut off, and its citizens displaced or hiding in fear. In Darfur, eyewitnesses report systematic targeting of ethnic communities, mass graves, and forced displacements that evoke memories of genocide. Women and girls, in particular, face horrific abuses, including abduction and sexual violence used as weapons of war. The humanitarian toll is staggering. According to the UN, nearly 25 million people, more than half of Sudan's population, now require urgent aid, with millions at risk of starvation. Neighboring countries, including Chad, Egypt, South Sudan, and Ethiopia, have absorbed waves of refugees, straining their own fragile systems and deepening regional instability. Yet, despite the magnitude of the crisis, international attention has remained limited, overshadowed by other global events. Diplomatic efforts have struggled to secure lasting ceasefires. Multiple attempts by regional and global mediators have faltered as both warring parties continue to seek military advantage. Civilians, caught in the middle, are left pleading for peace that feels increasingly distant. The collapse of Sudan's economy has further compounded suffering. The currency has lost most of its value, food prices have skyrocketed, and essential goods are unaffordable for ordinary families. In many areas, humanitarian workers risk their lives to deliver basic supplies, facing harassment, looting, and violence. Despite these challenges, Sudanese communities have shown extraordinary courage and solidarity. Local volunteers, neighborhood committees, and grassroots organizations often led by women continue to organize food distribution, shelter, and medical care, even under bombardment. Their bravery stands as a testament to Sudan's enduring spirit amid devastation. However, resilience alone cannot replace international responsibility. The world must act decisively. Governments, regional organizations, and global institutions must pressure both military factions to end hostilities, uphold international humanitarian law, and allow unrestricted access for aid. Humanitarian corridors must be established and protected to ensure that food, medicine, and relief reach those most in need. Sanctions should target those responsible for atrocities, while diplomatic efforts must prioritize inclusive dialogue involving civil society, women's groups, and marginalized communities to build a sustainable peace. Moreover, the international community must address the root causes that have driven Sudan's cycles of conflict, inequality, exclusion, and the concentration of power in the hands of the few. Genuine peace will require justice, accountability, and investment in rebuilding the nation's shattered infrastructure, economy, and social fabric. The suffering of Sudan's people should not be reduced to statistics or forgotten in the shadow of other crises. Every number represents a life: a mother searching for food, a child forced from home, a doctor performing surgery by candlelight, a teacher trying to comfort students amid fear. Their courage demands recognition and action. It is not enough to express sympathy. Tangible support is essential. Humanitarian organizations must be fully funded to continue life-saving operations. Nations must welcome Sudanese refugees with dignity and provide them opportunities to rebuild. Media and global citizens must keep Sudan's story visible, using their platforms to amplify truth and counter silence. The future of Sudan depends not only on political agreements but on the compassion and solidarity of the international community. The people of Sudan deserve to live without fear of violence or hunger. They deserve schools for their children, hospitals for their sick, and a government that represents them with justice and integrity. The world has a moral duty to ensure that Sudan does not collapse into permanent chaos. Peace in Sudan would not only restore stability to its own borders but also strengthen the entire region, offering hope to millions affected by years of war and displacement. Sudan's tragedy is not inevitable, it is the result of human decisions, and it can be changed by human will. Now is the time for leaders, organizations, and individuals to unite in purpose, to choose action over apathy, and compassion over indifference. The cries of Sudan's people are not distant, they are part of our shared humanity. To ignore them is to deny our own responsibility to one another. Let us not wait until famine claims more lives or violence erases another generation. Let us choose peace, choose justice, and choose to stand with Sudan. For in standing with Sudan, we stand with the very essence of what it means to be human: to care, to act, and to believe that even amid despair, hope can rise again.